Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim, and this one's going to be a fun one. This is one of my favorite types of webcasts to do. We're going to go on a little bit of a treasure hunt on Thinkorswim. We're going to be looking for 10 hidden gems that a lot of our users may not have stumbled across in the past. So what I'd like you to do as we're going through the platform is to keep a little tabulation. As I show you these 10 hidden gems, let me know at the end of the webcast how many you were already familiar with. That'll give me a good feel for how good of a job I did at finding those hidden gems. So it should be a really interesting discussion. Before we get to those hidden gems, I want to first of all say hello to everybody who's joining us out there in our live audience on YouTube. Hello there, Greg and Selva, Kevin, Bill, Eva, JDLMI, Rojo, Ted, and Noodlebrains, Sharon, everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. We always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the live stream is concluded, enjoy the recordings. Those are a great way to watch these webcasts. But if you'd like to be here in the live stream with our live audience members, you're certainly invited to join us. This is a Wednesday webcast series. We kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time if you would like to be here for the live discussion. Now, I also want to let my live stream audience members know that my very good friend Barb Armstrong is going to be hanging out in the chats. Barb's going to be keeping an eye on any questions that come in, and if I don't get a chance to address those, she'll be picking up the slack for me. So thanks for having my back there, Barb. Barb has also just posted that she and I strongly suggest that you follow us on social media. You should be following your favorite Schwab presenters out there on social media. It's the best place to connect with us in between the live streams when the camera's not on. So you can find me and Barb on X. You can find Barb there at Barb Armstrong CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. Now you can also, as of a couple of months ago, follow me on LinkedIn. Just go to linkedin.com/in/Cameron May CS. That'll take you to my profile. You can give me a follow there. But let's get into this discussion. And as we do, of course, there are risks associated with trading and investing, so bear these important disclosures in mind. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including the loss of principal. All right, so with that said, here's what we're going to be doing today. Basic agenda. We're going to be going out there going on a treasure hunt on Thinkorswim desktop. We're going to be looking for hidden gems. So one of those gems is going to be found only on the live platform. The other 9 we can find either on the live or on paper money. So we'll start the demonstration off on the live platform, then move to paper money. But I'm going to go through these 10 as methodically and as organized a fashion as possible. But as I go through these 10 tools, keep a little personal tabulation. Let me know at the end of the discussion, or if you're watching on the archive, just chat in or leave a comment below the video saying how many of the 10 you were already, let's say, thoroughly familiar with. Not just aware, maybe you've seen the tool before, but you haven't ever explored it. Doesn't count. We need to know where they are and how they're used. All right, so let's go get started. And the first thing that we need to know, as I mentioned, one of these tools is only on live. The other 9 are on paper money. One question that I get all the time, I've had this question, I don't know how many dozens of times over the years, is, Cameron, it's kind of a pain to log into paper money, and when I'm done with it, I have to close it out and then log into the live platform. I wish I could have paper money and live going at the same time. Well, we absolutely can. A lot of people didn't know that. That's actually going to be hidden gem number 1, and that is that you can have the live platform and paper money going at the same time. And as a matter of fact, if I point down at the bottom of my screen here, you'll see as I point at that Thinkorswim icon in my drawer down at the bottom, up pop 2 images. Those are both Thinkorswim accounts. So I have my paper money right here. I have my live right there, and I can navigate back and forth very swiftly between the two. So the way to log into both of these, if you didn't know this little hidden gem, is to just log into one and then go down to the icon at the bottom, right click on that, or just click on it, or double click on it. Anyway, right click on it and you'll get a little pop-up menu, and just click on Thinkorswim right there in that pop-up menu. And what that will do is it'll bring up the login screen again. And then you just toggle over to logging into, let's say you're already in Papermoney, toggle over to Live and log into that, and that'll open up the platform again. So now we have Papermoney, and now we have Live. But what you'll notice as I hover over the icon down here, there's a very clear distinction between the two. In my mind, when I'm using Papermoney and Live at the same time, there's never any confusion between the two because, and this is what I would suggest, maybe somebody do at home, is I have a different color scheme going with each of these. My Papermoney, I keep that white or the light color scheme. The Live account, and this is just a demonstration Live account, I leave that with the dark background. So if you don't know how to make that change, it can be changed in the settings icon as we're logging in, or we can go up here to the upper right, go to the settings icon up here. We just go to application settings, go to look and feel, and change the color scheme from dark to light or light to dark, whatever we need to do. Click apply and click OK. That leaves that clear visual distinction between Papermoney and Live, and it helps avoid potentially costly errors. All right, so that is hidden gem number one, and I'm guessing probably a good portion of you just went, ooh, ching, I'm 1 for 1 right now in my tabulation. Great. Let's move on to hidden tool number 2, and as I mentioned, it's only found right here on the Live platform, and it's something known as the chart describer. So if we've been doing a lot of practice on Papermoney, we will not have run across this tool because even the link to use the tool doesn't exist on the Papermoney platform. So, hey, Roger, you like gem number 1? Very good. Yeah, when I first discovered it, I was like, oh, thank goodness. I can have both platforms open at the same time, do some practice, get right over to my live trading if I need to. Nice little nifty navigational technique. All right, but right up here at the top next to the share function is this icon. So it doesn't appear on Papermoney. Forgive yourself if you haven't encountered this as you're practicing. This is known as the chart describer. I'm going to click on that. And I think it'll show you basically what it does. Is I click on the chart describer, our system basically looks through a bunch of technical lenses for the chart that we have loaded. So right now I have Apple. And then it might highlight a few that may be of technical interest to some traders. So right here, you'll notice as I have Apple loaded and I've clicked on the chart describer, it's describing a few things going on with Apple through some different technical lenses. Number one, it's mentioning, hey, the relative strength index, the RSI, is crossing into oversold territory. Hey, for RSI users, that might be interesting. The standard deviation channel over 21 periods has an upper level of 275.49 and a lower of 257.73. The average is at 451. That's interesting. So we have a range between 275 and 257. Looks like we're right dead center in the middle of those. So I can kind of guess what's going on there. We're probably right at that middle line on the standard deviation channel. And finally, the 9-period simple moving average is at 269.83, and with price a few pennies below that. Maybe we have this is what's going on in my mind. Okay, so our RSI is getting into oversold territory as we're hitting that standard deviation channel line, trailing ahead of a downward sloping 9-period moving average. I know that's quite a bit for those of you who aren't familiar with charts, and you might be wishing that you had that same visual on what Thinkorswim's trying to tell us here. Well, we can get that by just clicking on Add Studies to Chart. So what this will do is if I click on this, it's going to add these 3 studies that our Thinkorswim algorithms have identified as maybe having something interesting happening today. So let's click Add Studies to Chart. And what do you know? Yep, here's our standard deviation channel. Price has just reached the middle of the channel. At the same moment, our RSI has dipped into oversold territory. So for those who use maybe standard deviation, there's a possible support area where we've reached an extreme, maybe a value level. None of this is a guarantee that price is going to do anything that we might anticipate. But for technicians, it's just gathering technical evidence. And yes, we are just below that 9-period moving average. That's positioned us down here. So interesting. So this is known as the chart describer. We can change the time frame, run it again. It'll bring up different indicators. We can change the chart to a different symbol, run it again. It'll probably find different points of emphasis for those charts. Very interesting tool, bit of a hidden gem. Can't even find it on Paper Money. So how do we clean this up? We can close out the chart describer by just clicking on the X over to the far right. And we can wipe the slate clean on our chart by going up here to all studies and just removing them all. There we go. Nice clean chart again. So that is hidden gem number 2. How are we doing? 2 for 2? I don't know. All right, now we're going to be moving on to hidden gem number 3. The rest of these are all found on Live or on Paper Money. So we're going to go on over to Paper Money and do the rest of this presentation there. But I'm going to hit the pause button on the presentation for just a moment because I just noticed out of the corner of my eye that a survey has been added to the chat for those who are here in the live audience. So if you would do me this favor, if you're here in the live audience, click on that survey link and then just fill the survey out when the webcast is over, when you can give me some honest feedback. I'll tell you, just ask you a couple of questions ranked on a scale of 0 to 10 about how you thought the webcast went. And then at the bottom, you can add comments or suggestions. If you fill that survey out, I promise you, I'll take the time to read through that. That's never wasted effort. That information goes right to the coaches that you're providing feedback for. So thank you for doing that. But back to our presentation, on to hidden gem number 3. All right, let's come down here, use our little navigational technique from hidden gem number 1 to get over to Paper Money. And I want to have a look at, well, let's just stay here with Alphabet. All right. You technicians, I want to talk to you chartists here for a moment. There are all kinds of different chart strategies that one might employ for entry and exit signals on a stock using just signals from a chart, right? So wouldn't it be nice if those charts actually just, if we could see those signals on the chart just pop up automatically? Well, depending on the strategy, it may already be built right into the Thinkorswim platform. I'm going to go up here to our Edit Studies icon, which is where we would add those technical studies. And immediately we find all of the hundreds of technical studies. But one thing that can just sort of fly under some people's radar, because we kind of creatures of habit, we get sort of embedded in our own routine, and we can forget to click on other things on the platform, is this little tab right here called Strategies. So this is still going to use technical indicators. It will automatically apply those to the charts, but it will also draw and highlight kind of typical or common entry or exit signals using those indicators. So I thought, as an example, let's use a common technical approach, which is a moving average crossover. So I'm going to type in MOV for moving average, and you'll notice there's a strategy here that says moving average, 2 lines. Yep, strategy. Well, what is that? If I click on the little question mark here, it'll say the moving average 2-line strategy is based upon crossovers of faster and slower moving averages of price. The faster average's length is significantly less than that of the slow one. By default, crossovers are found, in this case, for exponential moving averages. You can use other ones if you want. Anyway, so there's a nice little description of what this strategy is doing. So let's add that to our chart and click Apply and click OK. And for you technicians, here's what's going on. The system has automatically applied a 20-period and a 50-period exponential moving average to the chart. And as the 20 crosses up and through the 50 or down and through the 50, it's now highlighting potential exit and entry signals based on that kind of traditional entry and exit. So for example, the 20 crossed down over the 50 right here, generating a possible bearish entry signal or bullish exit signal. And it shows this little dashed line trailing from one signal to the next. You can see that net, the price was down, maybe saved a trader from a lot of bullish headaches right here. If we're trying to be bullish and trades just aren't panning out, until we got the 20 crossing above the 50. There's another crossover signal. And now the system's just waiting for the 20 to cross back over the 50 heading back down before it would show another sort of pink themed bearish crossover. So this is just an example. If you noticed in that menu, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of these sorts of strategies. You might take a peek in there, see if your favorite one is there. Might be a nice little helpful visual representation of your favorite strategy. Okay, Sai says, are these strategies available for free? Do I have to download them from somewhere? No, you don't have to pay for anything here. Using Thinkorswim is available to everybody from Schwab. Everybody can just download the platform. And yeah, this is just on the paper money. And, well, it's also on live. I just wanted to demonstrate it on paper. Nothing to be downloaded, just already there. We click on the little studies icon up here at the top. There it is. Go to strategies, and we can look down through all of these different example strategies. There we go. So let's take that one off. I'm going to come up here to where we've added that. We can just remove it. Same thing, go up to studies, remove all the studies, click yes. That is hidden gem number 3. Moving on to number 4, and some of these, they're kind of hidden, but you've probably even seen me use some of these in previous webcasts if you've been following along with any of my series. So this number 4 is going to be the My Tools feature. So you'll notice we have, if you're familiar with Thinkorswim, we can add studies, we can change the style, our drawings, we have access to all these sorts of tools from Thinkorswim's menus. Wouldn't it be nice if they were just already available? We don't have to go find them in the menu. Well, let's add the My Tools feature. So for the next few, we're going to be using the chart settings. So I'm going to click on chart settings, and right here on the general tab is the My Tools feature. Now, if you haven't ever clicked this before, I can forgive you. It's kind of tucked away down there in that lower right-hand corner. Not everybody goes into the catacombs of this chart settings tool, but let's switch this on. Okay, click apply and click OK. And what this now does is it has this row of tools up here that is intended to be quick access to whatever the trader uses commonly. So maybe we draw lots of trend lines. I draw lots of trend lines in my demonstrations. So I have a quick access to the trend line tool. Maybe we commonly use a simple moving average. Well, I demonstrate those all the time. Here's my quick access to the simple moving average. Maybe we like to have the MACD or some other oscillator that we commonly use. This is a nifty feature. Now this is a customizable feature as well. Now you'll notice I also have like a strategy set here. If I were to select that, it brings up a set of technical indicators that I use in my webcast series on Friday, called the TVM, the Trend Value and Momentum Strategy Set. Now you'll notice as I move back down to the chart, my toolbar disappeared. That's because it's built to do that. It just kind of moves itself out of the way. If I wanted to stay up there and be static, I can actually click the little pin there and it'll just stay there, even as I move back down to the chart. Now, another thing is that I mentioned we can customize these. So right now I have these drawing tools, I have some studies, and I even have a strategy set. If I want to add to those, I can click on little gear. Gear means that something's customizable on Thinkorswim. And I can add to my existing set of what we call buttons. So let's add a button. Maybe I want to add another drawing tool. Should I do that? What do we have already? Oval, rectangle, price line. How about, if somebody uses lots of Fibonacci's, let's use our Fibonacci, let's add our Fibonacci retracement tool and save that. Okay. And now you'll see there's that Fibonacci tool. So if I want to draw Fibonacci, if I can very quickly, I can click on that. Now, how do we get rid of a drawing tool line? Well, user, if you've made a drawing, like for example, here's a couple of drawings on Alphabet that may no longer be important to me. I can just right click on those and either remove an individual drawing or clear the whole set of drawings. Like that. So that would apply to any of our drawings. A Fibonacci, a trend line, horizontal line, text note, an oval, all of those. All right, so that is going to be cool tool number 4. I'm going to unpin that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn that tool off. There we go. And let's clean up our study set here. There you go. Nice clean chart. Cool tool number 5 has to do with dividends. So for those of us who, for those traders or investors who buy dividend stocks, there's an interesting thing that happens with charts that may not reflect the full value that they may be getting from those stocks. So I'm going to use a stock that has historically paid comparatively strong dividends. Oh, get rid of the box containing the drawing tool. So did you see how I did that? So we added that. Oops, clicked on the wrong thing. We added that by clicking on the chart settings here. And where it says My Tools, we turned it on here. And I just need to switch it off right there. Okay, so on to this discussion of dividends. Yeah, there's an interesting thing that happens when a company pays a dividend to its stock price. Now, when I first heard about this, I thought, this is not fair. Why would they do this? When a company pays a dividend, its stock price, on the date of what we call the ex-dividend day, the price is adjusted downward by the amount of the dividend. So let's say that we have a stock, it's a $100 stock, and it's paying a $1 dividend to its shareholders. Well, on the ex-dividend date, theoretically, the share price is adjusted downward by $1 to account for the now missing $1 from the ledgers of the company. Yeah, what's actually happening here is as that money is being paid out to shareholders, it's a loss of value, a loss of an asset to the company, and it literally reduces the value of the company by the amount of the dividend. So the share price is automatically adjusted to account for that. So why don't we see a gap down every single time there's an ex-dividend dates? Because there are other things affecting share price. And very commonly, the dividend adjustment just sort of gets swallowed up in the noise of trading, kind of gets obscured by other trading activity. Now, an unintended consequence of this, and by the way, does this sound unfair? No, it's actually perfectly fair. The company just isn't worth as much as it was before the payment of the dividend. Totally makes sense. But over time, the shareholder who's only looking at the chart of their stock may be getting the wrong impression about how much value they're getting from the ownership of that stock. Because if the stock isn't going up, or let's say it's going up and not very fast, or even if it's going down, it may be sort of undervaluing the total value because they're seeing price, but they also need to keep in mind those dividend payments that they've been receiving. So for some, what they'll do is change the chart so they can see the net impact of price appreciation or depreciation plus the dividends that have been paid over time. That doesn't happen by default on the vast majority of traditional stock charts. So an adjustment that can be made here, and maybe let me just show you the impact of this. Let me go to a longer term chart of Philip Morris. And by the way, let me do one other thing here. Under equities, I'm going to show the corporate actions, including dividend payments for this company. Let's click apply, click OK. So we can see this little dollar sign here. That's a dividend that's being paid. And this is a company that's paid quarterly. It even recently increased their dividend. So that adds up over time. And you might think of this as there's a missing $4 and what, about 16 cents over the course of just this last 12 months. That's not being reflected on the chart. And over time, that can really add up. If I switch this to a 10-year chart, look at all these dividends. All of these dividends represent return of value to a shareholder. It's not being shown on the chart. Yeah. Yeah, good. Thank you, Eva. I didn't mean to say Philip Morris. I did actually intend to use Altria Group, which is basically a division of the same company of a sort. Yeah. Thanks for yes. There's two publicly traded versions. We have Philip Morris, but then there's also Altria Group. Yep. Thank you. Anyway, so yeah, let's stick with Altria Group. But if we look at this over 10 years, a trader who's just looking at price performance might look at where we started 10 years ago and where we are right now, and this has not been a great 10 years. Oh, why do I even own Altria Group? Well, what they're missing are all of these dividends. So under Thinkorswim, we can go up to the chart settings and go to equities. And right here, we can adjust for those dividends. Now, typically a chart does adjust if it's a big, weird, what we call a special dividend, a great big dividend that causes a huge move in stock price. Charts are typically backward adjusted for those. But if we want to see all those dividends, let's adjust for them all. So I'm going to click apply and click OK. And now all of a sudden my line is just coming out of nowhere. That's because as we're looking at price plus dividends, here's how Altria Group has actually performed for its shareholders. Is this a sales pitch for Altria Group? No, just as an example. But yeah, that is a nifty little tool there for a trader who's trying to get a gauge of let's say, real performance on a dividend-paying company. Now, the trader may want to switch back to a traditional charting view if they're using things like support and resistance and traditional technical indicators. Those are not typically applied when adjusting for dividends. It creates a very different scenario, as you might anticipate. Anyway, so if we want to see, let's say, a true price chart, we need to switch that back off. So how do we switch it back off? We go back to our chart settings, we go to equities, uncheck the box for not show corporate actions. Adjust for dividends. Let's move that back to a special and click apply and click OK. And this is what a price chart trader or investor might just be looking at, ignoring the impact of commissions. Dividends. All right. So let's remove that drawing. Let's go back to our 1-year chart. And what is that? That gives us 5. How's that tally coming along? How many out of 5 were we already familiar with? How many hidden gems have we discovered? Let's move on to number 6, which is a tool known as the social sentiment tool. This is one that I just made a post about on X and actually on LinkedIn. So if you're following me on social media, you're ahead of this discussion. You're already familiar with this tool, but let me show it to you. I'm going to come back up to our chart settings. So we've just been sort of working our way through the chart settings, the My Tools, the Adjust for Dividends, and then just down below Adjust for Dividends is the Social Sentiment tool. So I'm going to click on Apply, click OK. Let's switch up our chart here. I wanted to have a look at Oracle. Let's apply that again. Was that my chart? No, it's not available on every stock. Maybe that's not the one I intended. How about we just go back to Altria Group? That's okay. But in any case, with the social sentiment tool, maybe I zoom in here. We need to acquaint ourselves with the 4 elements of the tool. So what this does is it looks at discussions of Altria Group on social media, and using an algorithm, it categorizes the mood of whatever that post might be. So there are basically 3 different moods. There are negative moods or negative posts. There are positive moods or posts. So the negative is the red, positive is green, and then there's just neutral. So that's what these represent. And then finally, we have this orange line, which is actually the social sentiment line, which is a ratio of the percentage of positive mentions out of let's say, the non-neutral. So if we take the positive and the negative mentions, what percentage of those were positive? So for example, if I point at this, well, let's go back to this period right here, where we started to decline on this social sentiment and then started to rise. What are these values? Well, right here, we can see the sentiment was 56%. That means of the positive and negative moods, 56% of those were positive. All right, well, that's interesting. Well, if the mood is generally getting more sour out there on social media, that may conceptually provide a leading drag on price. If that mood starts to brighten, maybe the price will start to climb. Now, I can't draw a straight line between social media and price behavior, but that would be a typical interpretation of this tool by those who use it. So you may want to check this out. She says, is this a new indicator? No, this one was actually introduced, I think, in 2019 to the platform. So it's been around for a while. So that is just a quick introduction to it. What I would suggest to do anytime you encounter a new tool, just bring it up on a range of different stocks and see if it seems to work for your approach to trading. This is never a promotion of a specific tool, but I think this is an interesting little hidden gem that not everybody discovers because it is sort of tucked away here in sort of the inner catacombs of the chart settings. So let's turn that one back off. Let's go back to our social sentiment, uncheck that, click apply, click OK. And the next one for regular viewers of my webcast series, you're going to be familiar with this one, but it's not a tool that everybody knows. It's the seasonality tool. Let's go to the S&P 500. And we've probably all heard phrases like the Santa rally, or we hear about the January effect, or we hear about sell in May and go away. And the question comes up, are these things, have those become anachronistic? Are they outdated, or have they persisted recently? Do the markets actually struggle in summer? Do the markets actually excel during the holidays? How might I quickly test that? Well, that seasonality tool that I just mentioned may provide some important insights into that, not just for major indices, but this could also be used to explore, like, let's say, seasonal tendencies on individual stocks. But let me go up here to my style of chart. Right now, we're just seeing a traditional candlestick, what we'd call a standard chart. I'm going to change that style to seasonality chart. So as I switch this, we actually have two lines. One of them is almost invisible right now. We have a green line up here. It's very short. That's because this is showing us how the year is going so far. And since this is being recorded on January 7th, there have only been a few trading sessions of the year so far. But net, it's been a pretty good year, a good start to January. But down below, by default, this is going to show us how last year went. That's interesting. Was there a January effect last year in 2025? January effect means basically, do the indices go up during January? Yes, there was. Does that mean it's going to happen every year? Not always, but we're getting a good start for a January effect this year. What about sell in May and go away? I don't know. Last year, it was a pretty good summer for the bulls. Well, that's nice. That's 1 year, though. Does 1 year define a historical trend? Probably not. So what we might want to do here is switch to a longer term chart. Let's go to a 20-year chart. And that is now compressed. There's a lot of information contained within that chart down at the bottom. So what we need to do is zoom in on it. So right up here, we can manually adjust the height of the chart. So we'd have to change that to manual. And then we can just click and drag down to highlight that longer term seasonality chart. And what we're now seeing is not last year, but this is how, let's say, a typical January or a typical or average February has done over the last 20 years. It's an average over the last 20 years. So sell in May and go away. I don't know about that. For the last 20 years, it's been one of the strongest times of year. Is that potentially insightful? What about Santa rallies? Oh, yes, actually, there has historically been a tendency toward a rally right toward the end of the year. What about the January effect? Yes, that actually has had a tendency to manifest on average over the last 20 years as well. None of that is a guarantee of how the S&P or related companies are going to perform this year, but it's still a potentially nifty little tool and a hidden gem that not everybody discovered. So that's hidden gem number 7. Let me switch this style back up. First thing I'm going to do, let's put it back on a 1-year chart. So the next time I load this up, it'll still be on a 1-year view. And then I'm going to switch my style back to a standard chart. All right, this next one, It's kind of, this one I just like. I think it's just kind of a cool little thing. They're probably, for a lot of our users, they like to keep their eyes on a certain set of stocks. So they might keep a watch list of those stocks, but wouldn't it be nice if we just had a good old-fashioned ticker on the screen that just scrolled those symbols past as we use the rest of the platform? That we can do. So hidden tool number 8 is going to be a scrolling ticker at the bottom of thinkorswim. Here's how we might set that up. We're going to go to the home screen, and there's a scrolling ticker right down there. And we can choose what's displayed. We can use public watch list, we can use personal watch list. How about we load up the Mag 7 here and let those scroll by. Now, to make sure that that stays there, so as I move around to different places on the platform, this is detachable. So I'm going to click on the little detach window, and then I can just move the bottom of the platform up, and this could be a little bit sticky. Let's see. Let me click on that. Let's do that. Minimize. There we are. I had to minimize first, but as I move that up, you'll notice there's that ticker. And now as I move to other areas of the platform, the ticker is still there. Now, if I don't feel like I need that anymore, I can just click on it and close it out. So that is, let's call that cool tool number 8. Shree says, is there a class that teaches on how delta moves long options, the price moves towards the strike? Yes, there certainly is. Great question. That's not what this webcast is addressing, but we have all kinds of webcasts. Here's what you may want to check out. I actually have a webcast series that's called Getting Started with Options, and I put together a series of lessons to introduce the new trader of options to how options work. So to find those, first of all, make sure that you've subscribed to our Trader Talks channel on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcasts, but our channel is where you can join our live streams, but you can also find the playlists of previous webcasts. So if I go to playlists and I scroll down just a little bit, let's see if has this been repositioned anywhere? I haven't looked this one up specifically in a little while. Oh, well, I'm going to scroll down to where the whole webcast series is. So right down here is the Getting Started with Options YouTube playlist for my webcast series. And if I click on View Full Playlist, what I'm going to look for is the keyword lessons. So I can just scroll through here. It only takes a second. So I'm guessing, there it is, lessons. See that? Lesson 1 of 10, lesson 2 of 10, and so on. And the one that I would suggest you want to check out if you want to learn about Delta and the other Greeks is this one right here, lesson 5, the vital role of options pricing and the Greeks. Yep. Gina says, can you detach the watch list? Yes. The watch list can be detached. But back to our discussion, we need to round out those, let's maximize that. We need to round out these final 2 cool tools. One of these is sometimes in paper money we make a mistake, oops, and you wish you could just wipe out that little mistake. Not reset the whole account, but for example, here's some shares of Colgate. If I open this up, Colgate-Palmolive, 100 shares that I purchased, when was that? Back in April, and they've just sort of been sitting there. It's not something I've been actively working with or demonstrating or managing. And that is having an impact on the balance in my paper money portfolio. So what if I just wanted this trade to go away? Well, here's how we might do that. So the trade price on these shares was $88. Probably this was a call that was exercised or a put that was assigned, but purchase price of $88. If I want to make those 100 shares go away in the paper money, I can actually just right click on that and go to adjust position. A lot of people didn't realize this possibility, but if I go to adjust position, I know that I have these 100 shares, but it's a positive. We own 100 shares. So I'm going to enter negative to remove this, not selling. This is removing those 100 shares. And I'm going to do that at a price of $88. So if I was in at 88 and I remove it at 88, it's as though it never happened. So it's just going to be a position adjustment. As I click OK, you'll notice now, what's my quantity? Zero. What's the profit or loss since a position was taken? Zero. Yep, we've just zeroed that out. At the end of the day, that'll disappear and it's just gone. So Tammy says, yeah, these specifically are for desktop. Mobile is going to be significantly different. A lot of these tools are not going to be available there. And there's one of them even that's only available on live. Okay, so that's the hidden gem number 9. Hope you got your final tallies about ready. We got one more to go. And that is a different view of what we call our heat map. For some traders, they like to keep an eye on how the different sectors are performing. And we can do that at just a glance by going up to the Market Watch tab and going to the Visualize sub-tab. And that brings up what some people see as a very familiar tool. It's a heat map. It's to show the relative heat or not heat of different companies in different sectors. So here's information technology. It looks like Intel's having the strongest day within that sector, up about 7%. But there's a different way to visualize the relative performance of stocks across a range of, let's say, sectors or indices. And that is, we're going to change the visualization to the index watch. And how about for this? Let's just have a look at maybe the S&P 100. So what we're doing here is seeing a histogram bar display of the relative performance of the different companies making up the S&P 100. And it allows me at a glance to see, wow, looks like this one. Intel, yep, there's our strongest performer for the day. If I look down here, I'll be able to see the specific details of that performance. Last traded at 42.67, that's up 2.63% for the day. Which company's having the worst day? Probably this one, Caterpillar, down 3.56%. Yep. So that's just another quick way to get sort of the finger on the pulse of which companies are doing well, which ones are doing poorly across, in this case, the S&P 100, but we can also look through our personal watch lists or through other indices. But that is going to do it, guys. Those are our 10 hidden gems on Thinkorswim. Did that little treasure hunt. Chat in. If you've been keeping a tally, let me know. Out of these 10, how many were you already familiar with? Was it 3 out of 10? Are you relatively new to using Thinkorswim, or even a veteran user? 4 out of 10? 1 out of 10? Is anybody 7 or 8? I'd be interested to know. But guys, thanks for giving me your time today. This is what we do on in these Wednesday discussions, is we just get more acquainted with the tools and features available on Thinkorswim. But I try to go at a pace that everybody can follow. I hope that wasn't too much for you. Frank is saying, do we have access to see a replay? Yes, Frank, this is scheduled to be added to the YouTube archive. So if you haven't done it yet, make sure, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, to subscribe to our Trader Talks channel on YouTube. You can join the live streams. You can find the playlists for previously concluded webcasts from this series right here and from our other series. Another thing that I want to suggest is that you follow us on social media. So Barb's been hanging out there in chat's been helping out. That's always definitely appreciated, Barb. But you can follow Barb and me on X. Barb can be found here at Barb Armstrong CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. And if you reply to one of my posts, I reply right back to you. That's the way it works. It's a nice little interaction that's available when the cameras aren't on. Now, another place that you can now follow me is on LinkedIn. So I'm posting on LinkedIn. If you reply to one of these posts, I'll reply to you as well. And so just follow me on LinkedIn. You can go to linkedin.com/in and then /Cameron May CS for Charles Schwab. Give me a follow. Definitely, I'll look for you there. But Barb, thank you for reposting that survey for the live attendees. There's that survey in the chat. If you would click on that, take the time. If you fill that out, I just promise you, I will take the time to read through that. That data gets sent straight to me. It's never a wasted effort. Thank you, Barb. Everybody, thanks for the thumbs up, the likes out there on YouTube. 117 people watching. 47? It's like nearly 50% have already clicked the thumbs up. Thank you for doing that. That's definitely appreciated. That's a pat on the back to the presenter. Thank you. But it also gives my webcast a boost in the YouTube algorithm and helps more people find these discussions so they can learn about the 10, at least these 10 hidden gems on Thinkorswim. All right. Everybody have a great day. I will see you in a future webcast. I'll also look for you on social media, on X and on LinkedIn. But whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.